No.
Yeah, he's coming a long way. So
Yeah.
surprised that you don't carpool. He's out today. Yeah, got out of got back from Atlanta. I was in the executive retreat. We were in the Chattanooga Mountains. Have you heard of that? Chattanooga
Oh,
Mountains.
yeah,
Yeah, it's incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, really nice. This is like the I'll show you the view from my room.
Turn it.
Okay. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. It's 5:15. So I'll call the meeting to order and we'll go and check to make sure we've got everybody online for all the schools. So we can do a roll call, or we have them all online. We can just, and then we can do public comment. We can make sure. Okay. So I'll go ahead and do the roll call. Tuan Pham. Great. Dr. Lee. And Miles Durfee present. And Geronimo and Michael are not here at this time. Okay. We'll go with approving the agenda number 1.2. So I'll take a motion to approve the agenda. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm looking for. And we'll just note the minutes that Michael has arrived. We have not taken any actions. Greetings.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know. There's a lot of traffic out there in the world. Okay, so again, number 1.2 is the approval of the agenda. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Okay, Tuan. Okay, all in favor of approving the motion or the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think I heard everybody, so that's approved. Now we'll move to 1.3 public comment. Is there any public comment tonight?
We do not have any public comments in person today. I will check if there are any public comments at our school sites. Vista Charter Middle School, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Vista Horizon Global Academy, are there any public comments?
There is no public comment.
Palm Lane Global Academy, are there any public comments?
There's no public comment.
Vista Meridian Global Academy, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Vista Lago Global Academy, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so now we're moving on to consent items. You have in front of you 2.1 through 2.6. Anyone want to make a motion on the consent items?
Motion.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, Tuan. Any discussion on the consent items? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I hear all, any opposed? No? Okay, so that is unanimous. All right, now we are moving along to 3.1, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Felch.
All right, good evening, everybody. And we have slides for the superintendent report this month. So I'll wait for those to come up. Perfect. So we're going to start with our employees of the month. And first is our certificated employee of the month. And it is, next slide, please. It is Miss Heather Linsky, Condor and Heritage's intervention coordinator. And this is a note from the individual who nominated her, Mr. Armando Flores, which is Condor and Heritage's after-school coordinator and a parent. I'd like to nominate Heather Linsky for Certificated Staff of the Month. Her work as an intervention coordinator has had a tremendous impact, supporting students with care, collaborating with staff, and ensuring no one falls through the cracks. Her dedication and leadership truly stand out. Congratulations, Ms. Linsky. And once we go through all of the recognees, we will take pictures. Our classified employee of the month is Miss Susanna Betancourt, Vista's home office manager. And this is the note from Miss Medina, who nominated Miss Susie. For over 10 years, she has provided exemplary support to our team, consistently demonstrating her commitment to growth by learning each year and adapting to every change. She understands the importance of being prepared and of acquiring the skills and knowledge needed to handle the many different types of situations and responsibilities she is presented with. But beyond her skills and dedication, what truly sets Miss Susie apart is the love she has for Vista. She continues to devote her time, energy, and heart to our community, always going above and beyond to support others. Her loyalty, adaptability, and unwavering commitment make her an invaluable part of our team and a role model for us all. Congratulations, Miss Susie. And our Vista parent or supporter of the month is Miss Josefina Martinez. She is a 7th grade parent from Vista Charter Middle School. And this is a note from Mr. Summer, the principal of Vista Charter Middle School. Miss Josefina has been supporting all of our programs. She helps Mr. Serpas, the community school coordinator, set up and serve fellow parents by preparing coffee for the parent meetings, setting up and cleaning up after the parent meetings, and she is involved in every group that we have. We are blessed to have her as one of our lead parents. Congratulations to Ms. Martinez. And then we also have one employee who is celebrating their 10-year anniversary. Actually, today is the 10-year anniversary, and it is Mr. Roldan Camacho, Vista Charter Middle School's supervision aide. And congratulations to Mr. Camacho on a decade of dedication to Vista. And I believe he is on Zoom. Is he on Zoom, Mario?
Yes, he's here.
Wonderful. So, Mr. Camacho, congratulations and thank you so much for everything that you have done for the community of Vista Charter Middle School over the past 10 years. Thank you.
Sir.
And at this point, I'd like to invite the board up for photos. Oh, there we go. Okay, so as we continue the superintendent's report, I'm going to provide an enrollment update. So over the first month of the school year, and this is the case with every school year, the first month, there is more fluctuation as more students enroll, some students don't show up. And so overall, There are 1,873 students combined at Vista Charter Public Schools. That is down 16 students compared to last month. But again, last month was right at the beginning of the school year, and it included a number of students who did not show up. Overall, Vista Horizon is at 173 students, which is 9 more students than last month. Vista Charter Middle School is at 352 students, which is 19 down, but again, a fair amount of no-shows. Palm Lane Global Academy is at 277 students, which is 8 higher than last meeting. Vista Condor is at 371 students, which is 2 more than last month. Vista Heritage is at 366 students, which is an increase of 6 students from last month. Vista Meridian is at 248 students, which is 7 fewer than last month, and Vista Lago is at 86 students, which is 15 students fewer than last month. But again, from here on out, I expect the month-to-month fluctuations to be minimal, and hopefully green arrows up. I also, and I shared this at the beginning of the year with our staff from each school. My motto for this year is to expect excellence at every single level, expecting excellence out of our students every single year, or every single day, expecting excellence out of each other, and really holding ourselves accountable to that bar. And as a result, this month I'd like to highlight Vista Charter Middle School as they've really embraced the 4 domains of global competence and our new Vista Charter Public Schools Portrait of a Graduate. Mr. Summer has led them and begun training and collaboration about developing their student portfolio process, which really will be the vehicle where students will be able to demonstrate global competence. Their professional development has also provided dialogue amongst staff to create additional opportunities for globally relevant projects and activities. So again, thank you, Mr. Summer, for your leadership, and excited to see where this goes at Vista Charter Middle School. It is Hispanic Heritage Month, and all of our schools are in full swing celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and will continue to do so throughout until October 15th, to really celebrate the rich history, traditions, and cultural diversity of Hispanic and Latino Americans. And so, for example, at Meridian, the doors were decorated. I think we just voted on the winners. I don't know if the winner has been announced yet. Not yet. And councils were held in classrooms around heritage and traditions. Lago also held their first Spirit Week, showcasing cultural attire. And Condor Heritage and Meridian attended Santa Ana's Fiestas Patrias all weekend. And our very own community school coordinator, Zoila Lubin, was interviewed and shown on ABC7 News. And it was great publicity for Vista Charter Public Schools and Vista Condor in particular. And so, again, all of our schools are really celebrating, going all out to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. This past month, we also had our 5th annual, I believe it's 5th annual, Vista Charter Public Schools staff retreat. It was held at the Salvation Army Camp Daily in Calabasas. This was by far our biggest retreat yet. We had close to 100, just under 150 staff members present. And the objectives of the retreat were really to build community, develop purpose and pride around being a global educator, and develop a shared vision around our portrait of a graduate. And we received staff feedback afterwards. It was overwhelmingly positive, and one of our staff members actually said, quote, "This was my best first week of work I'd ever had in my career." So that was very validating. Next, over the past few weeks, we've had some oversight visits. It is the beginning of the year, but OCDE has conducted their oversight visits for Condor, Heritage, and Vista Meridian. And each of the visits went well, and I also think that it's very validating that the initial feedback is aligned and isn't surprising. It is based on things that we know that we want to work on, and that we also know that are areas that we are excelling in. And so, for example, one of the areas that continues to be strong is in the area of school culture. That Vista family atmosphere comes through time after time. And it really is part of the fabric of not only Condor Heritage and Meridian, but all of our Vista schools. One of the main areas of growth, and again, this is something that hasn't come as a surprise, but is something that we're actively working on, is really further building our English language development or ELD program. And that is one of the primary initiatives in our strategic plan. And in fact, the day after Vista Meridian's oversight visit, we had actually already scheduled an ELD training with OCDE with a number of our teacher assistants at Meridian. So I see OCD in the audience. Thank you for coming. But also we really appreciate the good timing. We also appreciate the partnership with OCD and all of our authorizers as we continue to grow as an organization. Next, I'd like to share an update on some of our charter renewal petitions. Last meeting, the board approved the resolution for both Palm Lane and for Condor to submit their charter renewal petitions. So on September 15th, we submitted Palm Lane's charter renewal petition to the Anaheim Elementary School District. The public hearing for Palm Lane's renewal has been set for November 12th. And Anaheim Elementary School District will take action on Palm Lane's charter renewal at their board meeting on December 10th. For Vista Condor, we are going to be holding off a few months. We will be submitting in November. And the main reason for that is we would like to wait until the CASP scores and the California School Dashboard data are publicly released, because we believe that those are going to help strengthen the case for renewal for Vista Condor. And I'm going to finish by highlighting attendance. So I'm going to do two things with attendance. First, I want to spotlight Horizon and some of the work that they've been doing. As you might remember, last year, Vista Horizon's chronic absenteeism rate was very low and much lower than the rest of our schools. And the board even asked, what is Vista Horizon doing that we can learn from? And so there are a number of things that Mr. Benavides has shared, such as the phone calls on Sunday nights. But I also wanted to, when I saw this, I wanted to highlight this and just show it to the board, to the public, to all of our schools. So now they have a weekly attendance trophy that goes from class to class based on the class that has the best attendance. And not only do they get a trophy each week, but they get a little mini dance party celebration. So I want to show you a little 15-second clip. Chronic absenteeism was low. Yeah. Attendance rate was high, yeah. And so this is just a quick clip of last week, and this is 5th grade who had the highest. Let's see if it works. If not, you have to. Yeah, we might have to click it. Oh, is the audio not working? Well, either way, there was music there. And you can see the conga line. They were just having a blast, and this is really something that is motivating the kids. The kids are holding each other accountable and saying, "Hey, we got to come to school." And so it's just a win-win in all areas. And so I wanted to highlight and thank Mr. Benavides for your leadership and that idea of having the weekly attendance winners. And the last thing that I'm going to share, we might need to move on to the next slide. There we go. I wanted to follow up on the procedures for attendance recovery. Again, last board meeting, the board approved the attendance recovery policy, and we have started to put that into place. And so I'm just going to go through really the process from scheduling to making sure that everything is tracked accordingly. And so the attendance recovery sessions are either going to be before school, after school, or on non-instructional days, such as Saturdays. And first, prior to each scheduled attendance recovery session, the administration and/or office staff will identify the students who are eligible, who have outstanding absences, and communicate not only with them but also with their parents, whether it's part of the after-school program or on a Saturday, and emphasize the importance of attendance recovery. It is voluntary, but it's still important to emphasize the importance of that for both academic purposes as well as to recover ADA. And then a credentialed teacher for each session will be assigned to each attendance recovery session and provide academic instruction, intervention, while also maintaining the attendance recovery sign-in sheet for that session. After the session, the teacher will submit the completed sign-in sheet to the administration and office staff that's dedicated to tracking the school's attendance recovery data. And the designated office staff member will then input the attendance recovery sign-in sheet into the master spreadsheet that we will have or that we have at each school. At the end of the school year, when it is time to begin uploading for the end of year CalPads, that data will be transferred over to PowerSchool, and then PowerSchool will then send the data over to CalPads, which will then be able to recoup the attendance. We will also maintain all of the sign-in sheets and the school site attendance recovery master spreadsheets for auditing purposes. So those are really the procedures from start to finish for our attendance recovery policy. And we are excited to really get this rolling at every school. And I know that, for example, Vista Charter Middle School already started a Saturday school. So it's already happening. And that is the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Felch. Any questions for Superintendent?
Yeah, I have some questions. So just from the top, I'd love to know, because you shared some early data on enrollment, what is the capacity at each site and what's the goal? Like, what's the aim here? Because even if it's plus or minus every couple months, a quarter per year, it's hard for us to gauge overall how to support the effort when we don't really know how many students you could have at each school and how you're making progress towards those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vista Horizon is the closest to their, and I'm just kind of going down the list. Vista Horizon is the closest to their budgeted projections. I think it is 185, 190. So 173 out of 190. Vista Charter Middle School, I believe it is, Arturo probably has the budgeted numbers handy. I believe we started at 390, and then I think we went down to but for the middle school, I think the goal was I think 390 originally, and then I think we said about 375 was the goal. Palm Lane, the goal started at 325, and then I think we were hoping for 300. I know Debbie is always trying to cross that 300 threshold. Condor and Heritage, the goal for both is 400. Vista Meridian, the goal is 305. And then for Vista Lago, the goal was 170 students. We've now, it's still 170 students, but we changed the budgeted target to 100.
Okay, so I think in the future, what I would recommend, just as a side item here, is to share maybe percentage towards
Sure.
progress of the goal. And it just helps us to know where we can divert efforts, because if some schools are having great success in their enrollment, then you can diversify the resources needed for other sites. So that was just one thing I wanted to make a note of. And then the expecting excellence, and other board members, please jump in when you need to, but I'd love to see what this looks like, because you have slides sharing so many different points, but I'm just excited to see how they have brought this to fruition, because it's harder said than done, but it sounds that you're sharing about it with such excitement that I just want to know, other than testimonies, what are the artifacts? What are the conversations? What does that process look like? Which then tells me I would love for this to be codified. I'd love to see what that looks like from beginning to end, because I think there's something really special going here.
Yeah.
And then I wrote one more thing here for the attendance recovery program. My apologies, I think I might have missed the details on that, but I'd love to know more of the goal of that program, because we want to make sure that the enrichment activities that are happening during that time are aligned to the goals that you have for the program. And then, just from personal experience, thinking about how a credentialed teacher differentiates for students across the subjects, across the ages, across different time periods in the year. How then do they support a student to making up the content or even the academic knowledge that is lost when they're absent that day? It's so hard for one person to do that when, say, there's maybe 20 kids in the room and they're all from different classes learning different things. So maybe just a little bit more clarification on that, so we can see if we can provide some potential support for what that experience looks like.
Yeah.
And I'll stop there.
Great.
That's it for me.
That's it. Okay, any other questions? Okay. I know we have the principal reports. Thank you for that. And then I know Dr. Alessandro. Or oh, you guys all seem like doctors to me.
Do I? Hello, hello. It's too loud. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Dr. Felch, Assistant Superintendent Mrs. Amaya, esteemed colleagues and guests. I am excited to share with you our board report for Condor and Heritage. And we'll just wait a second until it comes up here on to the screen. Ready? Okay. Is it going to go? There we go. We're going to start with our enrollment. For Condor, we are currently at 370 students, 3 more than last month. Our budgeted enrollment for this year is actually 380, so we're close. And we were even enrolling kids today. I think we enrolled 3 kids this morning. So they are coming, and it might be because they saw Zoila on the news. I don't know, but we keep getting kids in Condor, and especially in 2nd and 3rd grade. As you can see, the numbers are really high there. And then in Heritage, we are at 366. That's up 5 from last month. And our budgeted goal for Heritage is 400. And so we are working really hard to improve those numbers. We did have our oversight visit. Was it last week? Feels like it was a long time ago. And it's always great to have our partners from OCDE on our campus sharing their knowledge and their experience and giving us really, really quality feedback. So they spent time visiting classrooms, meeting with teachers and staff, and reviewing files. We received some glowing commendations from them about our positive school culture and providing a safe, nurturing environment to our students. Their comment, and I quote, is, "You are focused on student needs and that the staff genuinely cares for the students. And to me, that's the most important feedback we can get, because if our students don't feel safe and happy, they're not going to learn. And so we focus and spend a lot of time ensuring that our students feel welcome and safe and cared for. So they also mentioned that we have a wealth of resources for our students and that they were actively engaged in their learning. And that's always great to hear as well. The team praised us for making the move to put our elementary classrooms downstairs and move middle school upstairs. So I was very excited to share that with them. And then we talked about our adoption of the science of reading-based curriculum. So yay for that. And some feedback on some areas of growth for us, which again, were no surprise. The focus on our EL instruction for our very large population, we are in the high 40% in both schools of EL learners. And so working to provide them with the support that they need so they can be academically successful is what we are working on. They also suggested that we provide targeted visuals such as anchor charts and vocabulary walls to support our English learners, and that the targets align more closely with what students are learning. So we are really working hard on making those happen. And we appreciate the feedback. So this month, for our LCAP goal number 1, educating the whole child, I'm going to just go to the picture. You can read it if you want to. This is a first grade classroom that I happened to pop into the other day, and they were working on counting on, which is a big deal in first grade math. So the teacher was giving students opportunities to work together and collaborate on how they were counting on. And this young man got an opportunity to come up to the front and share his thinking with the whole class. And that is such an important skill for kids to have, not only to be able to figure out the math, but to explain it. And so he was showing us how he counted on from 7 by 2 to get to 9. And it was a really great moment to experience. Secondly, our professional growth. It feels like an eternity ago, but as Dr. Felch mentioned, we had our staff retreat. And it's so wonderful to have the opportunity to, number one, be in nature and be away from our normal lives. And even though we all complain about it and we think we have so much to do, we really don't want to take the time to go to the retreat. And then we get to the retreat and it's always worthwhile. So getting the chance to bond as a team and as, you know, with our other colleagues at the other Vista schools is really an important opportunity for us, and to deepen our understanding and use of way of counsel. And then finally, as you heard already, we did participate in the Fiestas Patrias, which is Santa Ana's biggest event. There are, I don't know, probably thousands of people that attend. And we had our booth there and lots of people stopping by, talking to our staff and asking questions, learning about our school. We did get a nice long list of people who are interested in coming to have a tour of the site. And Zoila and Leo, our community coordinators, are working really hard on that. And so it's wonderful to be a part of our community and share what we're doing and enhance what they're doing and really get to be together. So also, I thought it was important to continue to highlight Ms. Linsky for our staff spotlight this month. Many don't know this, but Mrs. Linsky was not an ed specialist. She was a special education teacher for many years before she came to us. She was also an administrator, and now she is heading up our intervention program. So she's not only developing the program, she is training and supervising our TAs who are giving that support to students. And I didn't mention it here, but she's also training and supporting our teachers in the intervention program. She is also really gung ho about overseeing our MTSS process. We've spent the whole of last school year attending OCDE trainings on MTSS to improve our practice. And I really feel like we have a really strong MTSS process right now. So thank you again to Mrs. Linsky. And finally, an invitation. We're having our fall festival coming up here on October 30th after school from 4 to 6. We'll have a trunk or treat. We have games and activities for kids. And we would love for you, our board members, to join us and get to know our community a little bit better. So thank you. And that's all for now.
Thank you. Any questions? I have it on my calendar for October 30th.
All right.
So hopefully it'll make it.
No,
Okay.
I don't have any questions, but I just had a comment. First of all, I can see the joy in that kid's face, getting to teach his peers. And I think recognizing that peer-to-peer instruction, that time to build their confidence is essential. But also the fact that you're highlighting these anecdotes for us tells us that you're paying attention to not only those details that happen in the classroom, but you also have great oversight of the site itself. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Okay, thank you. 3.3, financial reports.
There we go. All right. Good evening, everyone. Is it on already? All right. Today, it's going to be kind of lengthy, so I'm going to kind of go pretty quickly through a couple of things. First will be the July 2025 financials, just because it's the first month. I will summarize the 24-25 unaudited actuals, which you have as an action item later this evening. And the primary focus will be summarizing the 25-26 updated budgets based on enrollment. So starting off with the July 2025 financials, we'll look at the middle school. This is a new template we're working on for this year to try to give you a one-page quick snapshot of each schools and their health. Up the top right, you'll see the enrollment and the attendance rate, and this is based off of the original preliminary budget in June. So the enrollment target for the middle school was 390. In August, it was 349. The attendance rate goal was 93%. They're currently 95.92%. I'm going to be adjusting this moving forward to focus primarily on the actual ADA number, as that's one thing I'm working with the principals moving forward, because that's really what drives the finances. So when we talk budget, we're just going to be talking what's your ADA at, not percentage, but the actual number. The balance sheet for the middle school, as you know, it's pretty healthy. Assets of over 15 million. Liabilities are just over 7, so equity about 8.4. Over $6 million in cash, so over 300 days of cash on hand for the middle school. Their ADA for the first statistical month was 329.12. Remember that when we talk about the budget as we move forward. And then I do want to highlight most of the schools are going to be getting additional funding this year for professional development. For the middle school, that's going to be about $106,000 that they can spend between now and the 28-29 school year. Revenue, so this will be pretty quick. July was pretty low. You pretty much got your first payment of LCFF, a little bit of ELOP money as well, and then some local funds. So about 2.2% of the year-to-date revenue goal of 8.2 mil. That's going to come down when we do the budget update. So after you see the new budgets today, next month, these will all reference the new budgets that you're seeing, but this is still going off the preliminary budget. Revenue, you see the breakdown here by each of the categories. Again, July starts off pretty low to be conservative. You'll get more of your funding as you move forward. On the expenditure side, they had expenses of about $656,000. The bulk of that is salaries and benefits. And then operating was $220,000, and the big percentage of that is the first payment to the home office this year. So to kind of get the home office started, there was an invoice that covered a good portion of the year. So you'll see that for each of the schools, but overall about 8% of projected revenue. And then the details on the balance sheet for the middle school. Vista Heritage, so as you mentioned, the goal was 400 students. In August, it was 367. The ADA percentage goal was 93, and they're at 93.74%. Their ADA for the first month was 340.24, and we'll focus that again. Their balance sheet, so assets of It's a high number primarily because of the facility, and you see the same thing reflected on the liabilities because of a bond on the facility. So the equity is about 1.4 mil. Cash is about 1.4, and that's about 63 days cash on hand based on expenditures through July. Their revenue, so received, just over 500,000 or 338,000, primarily LCFF, other states, ELOP, and their K-12 SWP payment that came in for one of their new grants. So low funds to kind of start off the year. Expenses, 828,000. The majority of that is their first payment for the home office and transportation, as that kind of got moved to the home office. To fund that, they had to make those big payments. And you'll see the same thing reflected for Condor on the operating side. And then the detail for their balance sheet. Going to Condor next. So their preliminary budget goal was 385. 368 was the number in August. Their 88 percentage was 92% as a goal, and they're over 94% for August. The actual ADA number is 347.65. Their current balance sheet equity is about 2.4 million. Cash a little over $3 million, so over 133 days cash on hand. And they're getting both the PD funding, which is about 103,000 for Condor, but Condor, along with Horizon, is also going to be eligible for the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist grant from the state, which is $450,000 to spend over the next 5 years. And you'll see that reflected as we move forward on the budget. Revenue in July for Condor, they received just over 243,000. Again, LCFF, other state was primarily ELOP, it's a Prop 28, and about 2.87% of their projected revenue for the year. So breakdown again by each one there. On the expenditure side, so they had about 930,000 expenses. And again, the bulk of that's coming out of operating, and that's their first payment to the home office, as well as their first payment for student transportation to the home office. So although it's 11%, that will start to trend down as we move forward because they're big lump payments for those two things. And then their balance sheet detail. Horizon, their goal was 190, they're 170 in August. 88 percentage, 94.3 versus 93%, which was their goal. Their balance sheet equity is about 1.5, cash is just over 1.1, which is 116 days of cash on hand. Their portion of the grant is a little bit smaller, so it's $44,000 that they're expected to receive for the PD grant. And then their ADA for the first month was 160.83, so very, very healthy for them. And they're also going to be receiving the literacy coaching and reading specialist funding from the state. In July, they received just about 153,000. Again, majority of that LCFF and ELOP. A little bit higher percentage, based off they're in about 4%. And as I mentioned, the other state majority is the first ELOP payment. On the expenditure side, they spent 244,000. Salary and benefits are the bigger portion for them. And then operating, the biggest portion of that 84,000 is the home office payment for the first year. And then their balance sheet detail. Palm Lane, oops, too fast. So their goal was 305 students in the preliminary budget, and they're 274. We're very conservative in their 88 percentage rate at 92, and they're currently above 95. But very healthy balance sheet and reserves, so they had 8.6 million equity. And then cash on hand, again, is over 6 million, so over 357 days cash on hand for Palm Lane. Their grant amount for the PD is about $82,000. Based off of their unduplicated percentage, they didn't qualify for the reading specialist and literacy coaching, so they won't be receiving that grant. Their revenue in July is about 153,000. Again, LCFF and ELOP. Their expenditures were 582,000, and that was, so salaries and benefits, and then operating. And again, that was the first home payment to the home office. And books and supplies is trending a little bit above. They had some bigger purchases and materials and supplies to start off the year, but that should even out. That is kind of normal to see at this point in the year. And then their balance sheet detail. Meridian, so their goal was 300. August was 249. 88 percentage for August is above what we were projecting at 91%, so it's at 93. Their balance sheet is much closer. They do have equity about 400,000, but that's primarily driven by their grant funding that they received, as that's was the bulk of their receipts from last year. Cash of about $500,000, which is about 28 days, but they will be receiving monthly payments as they're past their first year. So a little bit tight, but nothing to be concerned about. Their revenue in July was $111,000. LCFF was the majority of that. They don't get ELOP, so the other state there for them is primarily some Prop 28 money. And then their expenditures, so $645,000. The big portion is operating, and that's their home office payment, and they also use transportation from the home office, so it's their first payment for that. That's driving that number there. And then balance sheet for Meridian, and then Vista Lago. So as we mentioned, Go was 170. August it was 81. Their balance sheet is currently negative. They do have cash on hand. It's about 21 days, but they do have access to a loan that was approved from Palm Lane. So if they need to tap more into that, they can definitely do that. Their ADA for the first month was 74.53. As a first-year school, they're not going to get funding from the PD grant or the literacy grant. As a new school as well, they don't receive any revenue. They'll get their first payment in November timeframe based off of their PenSec, and then the next payment will be starting off in February. So you'll see some zeros as we kind of start off. Their July expenditures about $128,000. Majority for them is in books and supplies and primarily computer and tech purchases. They're about $70,000. So don't expect to see that big purchases moving forward. So monthly expenditures should be much lower. And then their balance sheet detail. Okay. Questions on that, or should I keep going?
I have some questions, but any other board member questions before I start?
I have
ahead.
some clarifying
Go ahead.
ones. One is, first is not a question. Thank you I actually appreciate the new format, right? It's really great to see, especially to the question about attendance projections and enrollment and the graphs. So thank you. First question is the allocation to the home office, right? Looking at those numbers, they're different by school sites, but it also says transportation. Is that to assume that are all the payments to the home office like equitable, or are they distributed differently based upon use?
So the home office payment was based off of the 5.5% that the board approved.
Yep.
And the first invoice that went out went to each school aside from Vista Lago, and it was for the front half
Got it.
expectation from the preliminary budget.
Yep.
So they'll be because the home office didn't have any cash to start off the year, so it kind of did that to kind of get their cash flow going. The second invoice is projected to be in December, January timeframe, and will be reconciled based off of ADA and projections off the first interim.
Sounds
So
good.
payments will adjust going through each of the reporting periods.
Appreciate it. And I'm also new to some of these things, and you might have said this, but when does federal funding come in?
So federal funding generally comes in about 4 times a year.
Okay.
So you'll get October and then February.
Okay.
The first two. So that's the first time you'll see that. Nutrition funding, the federal portion of that comes in based off of when your claim submissions are submitted in about 6 weeks afterwards. So probably see the first one end of this month.
And is there any risk of losing any of that funding currently, or is there our projections or?
So not currently. So earlier in the summer, there was the talk about Title III and Title II funding possibly being pulled, but they resolved that. So currently there isn't any expectation to lose any of that.
Thank you. That's my questions.
Okay.
Thank you. I just had one question about Palm Lane because you mentioned that they didn't qualify for the grant to receive additional supports for media literacy coaching. Is that going to be supplemented in another way? Because why else wouldn't they receive?
So
some
it's a
support?
state grant, and it was based off of specific student enrollment and demographic numbers, and they just didn't meet the threshold for state funding for the year.
Okay, so maybe that's not a finance question. That's more of a question for discussion to see how they'll receive that support. Got it. Thank you.
It's based off the unduplicated account?
I believe so, and
It was calculated based on last year's kindergarten through third grade enrollment, and only schools with more than 94% of unduplicated students in K through 3 received that grant. And the minimum amount was 450,000, which is why Condor and Horizon received that amount. And Palm Lane was just under the threshold, so they didn't get anything. But to supplement, we do have our instructional coaches in ELA, math, and ELD that will be providing that. So this is really in addition to those instructional coaches. Yeah.
Okay, I too, the new format, I like a lot. It's very helpful for me to kind of ballpark what's happening. I heard you talk about going to ADA. I'm glad, that'd be great, but I really do like the enrollment and the attendance lines. And I actually hope that we're gonna be able to track the enrollment. Like, I understand that our budgeted enrollments are now going down.
Yep.
So this green line next month might be lower, but
Correct.
it would be helpful for me to, at the end of the year, when we do the next year's budgets, to be able to see how much we lowered the enrollment budget through the year.
So whenever we make an adjustment to that green line, it'll be from that time frame moving forward. So August isn't going to change. So you'll see the drop down and then versus new target.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to get to is a moment in May or July when we're approving new budgets, when principals are optimistic about their enrollment for next year, to know what number they picked last year, and be able to understand where they're at now. So, because I feel like if you look, the attendance, we're over budget on all the attendance for
On the
the
percentage,
school,
yeah.
on percentage. Which means enrollment was where we probably could have dialed in our budget forecast a little bit better. And I just don't want to lose that thread for next May when we've all forgotten. And so I just want to make sure in our reporting that we are able to produce at that point some understanding of where we were when we were really optimistic about May.
Okay.
So, okay. And then you mentioned, free and reduced lunch. So are we maximizing our free and reduced lunch as far as, is that playing into our income, our revenue at our schools? What I noticed in, not your slides, but in some of the slides for the demographics on the snapshot, is that I think our free and reduced numbers are coming down. And I don't know if that's a demographic change. I don't think it is.
No, that's more just submitting lunch applications. Yeah.
But does that affect our?
It does.
It does, but we are getting on that.
Okay.
We've circulated that last week to make sure that we are getting all of those lunch applications in.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. Let me see, I think I might have one other question. On the graph where you've got the accrued at where the line goes up on the accrued, is that just signifying what you carried forward? So if you look at like the line chart you have on year to date by month.
On the revenue?
Yeah.
Yeah, so depending on that month, what we're expecting to have received, so it does fluctuate.
But the accrued is the last line on the right, and is that you have months and then you have accrued, so.
On which?
If you look at, I'm looking at like revenue, the line chart for any of them, they're all the same. But if you look at that line chart, they all have an accrued, so I guess that's just June. So I guess I'm trying to find out what that spike is. Is that July of the next year, or is that, say, it says accrued. So if you look at, if we go to the very top. Oh, thank you.
The page 35. Well, I have different ones. Which school?
Just start at the first, any of them works. So I'm going to the top.
Okay. So at the end of the year, yeah, I'll need to double check what the accrued number there is.
Okay.
That it's pretty high for an accrued number.
Yeah, they're all spiking.
Yep.
Which I'm wondering.
So there are certain timeframes in the year where you get like your EPA funding, and some of that is your federal funds that come in on those different timeframes. So you'll get more in those months versus the other months, because the other months you're generally just getting your state funding.
Okay. All right. So, but so I guess I want to know what that accrued.
Yeah, that accrued looks a little off to me, so I need to go back and double check
Yeah, and it looks like June, it looks like it may be the July of that year, but and that's possible.
Yeah, so it's any leftover payments, generally it's what's under accrued. So you have like a leftover LCFF payment, leftover
Okay.
federal funds that come in after the June fiscal year ends.
Okay, and then the last question was on Vista Lago. So did we didn't qualify for, can't you get early apportionment, or is that not possible?
It's the first year, no. So, but you have,
I think we're talking about the PenSec.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you submit PenSec, but you get your first, you don't get your special apportionment till October, November timeframe off of your PenSec. So as a first year school, you don't have monthly payments until your P1 gets submitted officially.
Okay. Is that because we're a CMO? Like,
No, it's
brand new charter
any
school,
new
yeah.
charter school. Their biggest obstacles for any new charter school is facilities and cash flow.
and so they use the charter school loan fund or the,
Correct.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, and did we
We've
capitalize?
applied for that. Yes.
And I think we got, yeah.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more follow-up, just because you mentioned it for Vista Lago and also, I believe it was, yeah, Vista Meridian. You mentioned, oh, the days of cash on hand
Yep.
is a little tight, but we're not worried about it. Just so that when we review this, what is the preferred number of days of cash on hand? So we know when to ask the right questions.
You want to have at least 30 plus.
30 plus.
Yes.
Got it.
So, because you want to make sure you can make it past the month till you get to your next payments. So,
Okay, thank you for that.
all right.
Okay, moving on to non-audited. Thanks.
Unaudited actuals. So these quick summaries for the prior year. So Vista Charter Middle School ended up the year higher than we were expecting, primarily driven by the employee retention credit and some unrestricted funds that came in as well. So their projected net income was $10,399. They ended up at $373,000. A big bulk of that is that employment retention that came in June. And then the additional portion of that is some restricted funds, primarily some ELOP that was unspent for that fiscal year. Vista Heritage. So similar, they came in positive net income of about $393,000. Again, primarily the employment retention credit. 8A was higher at P2, so a little bit more from LCFF. And then they got another K-12 SWP payment that came in. So that's going to get utilized over a couple of years. So that's restricted. But came in stronger than we were expecting at second interim, which was negative number, but it was negative because of restrictive fund use. But there was a positive on the unrestricted funds. Vista Condor. So we ended up positive about 57,000, primarily driven by employment retention credit, as well as some ELOP on the restricted side, and savings on some of the expenditure side. As you see, books and supplies ended up under 90% for the year. Although services and other operating procedures look slow, it's because of the facility payments get moved into the 6,000 and 7,000 series based off of the interest that's paid on the bond and the amortization of the facility. Vista Horizon. They ended up, I missed that page on my printout. So positive over 250,000 versus original was about 15. Again, employment retention and their P2 was higher. But a big bulk of that for Horizon is their ELOP. They got a big jump based off of their growth in enrollment. And it's one area where they're focusing on making sure they able to provide more expanded services in the after school and preschool program or before school program. Palm Lane. So this one was an interesting one. There's a lot of restricted funds. Biggest being is also ELOP and the fact that they got ACEs for the first time this year. Historically, they didn't have ACEs, and so they had a pretty, small program, and they maintained that in 24-25. But because they received ACEs, it was funded by ACEs, and so there was a lot of ELOP that went unutilized, which is driving that big net income number, but that's primarily all restricted funds. So it has to be utilized over the next couple of years. And then Vista Meridian, similar story. That 1.1 is driven by their Golden State Pathways grant, as that I believe is a 5-year grant. They got over $1 million to spend over 5 years, but because it's state funding and it showed up last year, it counts as revenue during that year. So that's what's driving that number there. So again, restricted funds. So you'll see as we move forward, we'll be utilizing that. And that will be coming down in terms of net income there on the restrictive side. Okay. Ready for 25-26 budget update? All right. All right. So starting with the middle school, Vista LA. So and again, as I mentioned before, the key for me now moving forward is talking about the ADA number, as that's what's going to drive everything. So their initial ADA number was 362.7. The new budget we're working on is going to be based off of that 329.06. So if you remember from the July actuals, the August ADA number was 329.12. So it's right aligned with that month. We feel that's a safe place to be because of the new attendance recovery that's going to be available, because we do know generally there's a little bit dip in the winter months. But attendance recovery, we think we can maintain that, if not beat that. But that is a 33.6 ADA difference. And as you know, that drives a big drop in LCFF. So it led to a drop of about $500,000 at 493, as well as on sped revenue about 32,000. Federal generally stays pretty steady because it's a portion based off of your counts of free and reduced and Title III. And so although their ADA projection came down, their enrollment numbers pretty similar to where they were at last year. So we're expecting that to kind of stay about the same. Once they release the first apportionment update in December, we'll update that. But overall revenues went down about 544,000. That did drive changes. So with all of the schools, there was a lot of discussions with both Dr. Felch and with each of the school's principals over the last month to see, make some tough decisions. So there are some adjustments based off of the current enrollment. One is moving the intervention coordinator at the Vista Middle School, so it'll be shared with Horizon, and reconciling where salaries for the new staff came in. And then on the non-secured salaries, you see the big changes there. So several positions were removed, some TAs and a custodian position, and then that impacted benefits. So that's a reduction there, about 60. And then in the 4,000 and 5,000 series, we looked at where we can make some adjustments or reductions as well. A little bit of materials and supplies, lunch program came down a bit as enrollment came down, PD, field trips, and other areas. Although we're probably looking at inputting some PD back with the new grant funding that's going to be coming in this year. That's not currently reflected. So at the end, expenditures were able to reduce by about 427,000, still less than what we lost in revenue. So overall net income shows a negative number, negative 11,000. However, we are using learning recovery this year at the majority of the schools that have it. So that learning recovery is restricted funds that were received a couple of years ago. So it doesn't count as revenue this year, but that means that on the unrestricted side, at the end of the year, we're still projecting your unrestricted balance to go up, currently about 237,000 for the middle school. And that 11,000, if you're able to grow that ADA number, from 329 to 330, 331, it washes that out. So it's, again, ADA is going to be crucial there. Do you want to do questions by each school?
I was just going to ask the board that question. Do you guys want to go school by school, or do you want to go through all the schools and then ask questions at the end? Or do you think we're going to have enough questions to ask, or you don't want to? I'm looking for nodded heads at least. School by school? Okay. All right. Any questions for Vista Charter Middle School? No. Okay. I do have. So this is a question for all of them, but we might as well get it out of the way now. So the ADA, were there any attendance rate budget increases to get to your ADA number on the new budgets, or are they all enrollment?
So the ADA number here is driven by actual ADA from the first day of school through beginning of September.
Yeah, and the question, I guess, is there are two ways to achieve a higher ADA rate, right? One is you could budget a higher attendance percentage, and that would get your ADA over time to be higher, right? And so I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, are we just assuming we lowered the enrollment for budget, or did we actually raise some attendance rate, like for the future budget? So does that make, does that?
I don't think I'm understanding it completely.
So let me use.
I'm trying to take away from, we're trying to get to 380 students and 93% to you're currently averaging 329 students on campus each day. You need to maintain that or average above it.
Yeah.
If you do that by adding enrollment to grow that, that's great. If you're doing it by focusing on your attendance each day, that helps as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what I guess I'm asking is, did we make the assumption based on our budget changes that we're going to be, that our attendance is going up as part, or did we just reduce enrollment expectations?
I'm sorry, I'm still
Yeah,
not.
I guess maybe,
So I'm not expecting, I'm not projecting
if
attendance rate to go up.
Okay, that's
I'm
what
projecting
I'm
it
trying
to maintain at minimum where they're currently at for the year.
That's what I'm trying to confirm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to confirm that the budgets are actually, you looked at what the enrollment is and you said, okay, well, this is where they can get to on an ADA, and they looked at that and they say, well, we might pick up 2 or 3 students at this rate of the year, 4 students, and so we can assume a little higher ADA because we'll catch up at the end of the year.
So,
but if they go attendance, like again,
Yep.
if they went from 92% attendance rate to
94,
95% attendance rate for the year, right? Their ADA would go up significantly, right?
correct. Off of the original number, yes.
Yes,
Got
off
it.
the
Yeah,
original
correct.
number.
Yeah. But instead of that, we focused on what the attendance is looking at currently and maintaining that for the year.
Okay, but that's also like if you're Palmlena, you're at 95% now and you budgeted 92% and you're assuming 95% for the rest of the year, then you are actually shifting the attendance expectation up.
Yeah.
So you're moving your ADA percent up.
Yeah. And
based off
and we
your
did that
enrollment.
based off of being with attendance recovery, kind of being the area to help maintain it for the year. Versus if there was no attendance recovery, then I would have most likely projected a couple of attendance points below where they're currently at, because you do generally see a little bit of a dip in
Okay.
December through February.
Okay, and so are we assuming attendance recovery will essentially be full attendance recovery for what we can, or what are we making do we have a budget? I think this kind of goes to what Kelly had asked earlier, which is, do we know what our fiscal expectation is for attendance recovery, school by school or system wide?
Don't know that yet. We're kind
Yeah,
of
and
waiting for the first
because it's
couple of
the first
days.
year, it's untested.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we do it well, I think we can
Above this,
surpass what the current projections are.
Okay.
But if I'm understanding this too correctly, it seems like kind of what got us into this space was if we do this well, right? If we hit our enrollment numbers. And so I am curious how much our budget is accounting for the assumption that attendance recovery is going to work. Does that make sense? Like, because to what you're saying, right, is we're banking on the attendance recovery program supporting this initiative and as well as maintaining the high attendance that some of our schools currently have. And I'm curious to the point, like, how much of that are we really banking on the attendance recovery program working well?
Yeah, and the way I see it is there are multiple factors at play.
Yeah.
Because we're assuming that there will be less attendance in the winter months. There's also an assumption based on previous years that we do get a few more kids throughout the year, so enrollment should grow based on historical data. But at the same time, we've got this great attendance recovery initiative that is untested. So it is unknown, but it's right there in front of us to take full advantage of.
Great. And then just, I think that's just, I'm going to be thinking about that, like, as we go through the year, and I'm going to be wondering how we're doing with those, because it's really complicated. I get it.
Yeah.
But
and that's why we want to focus on that ADA number per month to see where we're tracking, to whether we need to make any adjustments and act quickly on that.
Yeah, great. Okay. And then I'm just going to ask the question for Vista Charter Middle School. So the 80,000 reduction in PD and field trips and other areas, I'm hoping that with reduction in positions or reduction in other ways, that maybe some of that, it feels hard to make those decisions. And when we're pushing really hard for increased academic achievement, PD is something that obviously is, I know it's a hard trade-off for the schools. And so I'm just hoping that maybe some of that reduction is because we're also reducing a position, for instance, and it may not need the PD for that position or something like that. Are we having those kinds of conversations? Do you want to?
Yeah, and even though there's a reduction, there's still sufficient funding in PD and in field trips. We felt comfortable decreasing the funding specifically in PD, especially because we now have more we have more staff with our instructional coaches, so we don't need to pay as much for outside vendors this year.
Great. That's the kind of question I wanted to hear. Answer I wanted to hear. Okay. Thank you. We can go on to the next school.
No
If there's
problem.
no other question.
Can I just make sure I'm understanding the attendance thing real quick? Last thing is, so when I look at Vista Charter Middle School, their current attendance rate is like 93 point, their ADA, oh, it's actually at 95, right?
Yep.
And you set that little green line that says 93%. Is the ADA based upon the 93% or the 95%?
So currently it's about a little bit below that 95%.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
That's the exact question.
Okay, so now I have a follow-up because when I was following this chain right here, I think for more accurate forecasting, which kind of brings back the point you made earlier when we're at the end of the fiscal year again and thinking through how principals and Dr. Felch are really thinking about that budget for next year. I do think it's really important then when you look at these, the enrollment and attendance charts again. So I understand now that your budgeting at, say, Vista Lago is at roughly 96% because that's kind of what their potential average is right now, and banking on the fact that if we do the program, the credit recovery well, whatever that means, whatever, because we're trying it out, right? So we'll figure that out as we go, that it will maintain that. But that means that when we forecast at the end of the year, we need to know what was the original projection. So for me, I would have actually rather these numbers come in at the original projection so I can see how far off the projection was. So I wonder if there's some way to show me, the projection for Vista Lago is 93% in terms of attendance rate. And then there's some chart that goes with it when we're looking at the budget, because then I can see, okay, this is how far off they were positively or negatively. So those discussions can be more informed. I wonder if there's some additional graph that you can show us so we can see this is what you did in addition because we're banking on XYZ. But the actual projection from what was approved was 93%. It just helps us when we have these conversations at the end to understand how far off we were, just so they know how much their actual budget may be when they approach the next school year.
Okay.
I have a
Thank you.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a projected ADA number and an actual ADA number, right? So is there an ADA number that would cause the net income to be balanced? Does that make sense?
So it would vary by school. So, for, like I mentioned, for Vista Middle School, if you get another ADA point, that pretty much washes out the negative $11,000. So each school's ADA point averages between $13,000 and $17,000 per ADA, depending on the grade level of that ADA point that comes in.
So they just need to go up by 1 point and it will break even.
For the middle school currently,
For the middle
yes.
school, yeah, correct.
So there
would
isn't
be
like a
helpful to know.
set ADA number that each school, it would be specific to each school.
No, understood. No, I was just thinking, I don't know if there's a way to add that metric there.
Yeah, I can put in, if the school's in the negative, I can put in what ADA point they need to hit to break even. That's not a problem.
Can I?
And I was also going to add, and I always push back on Arturo when we meet on this. I know we're focusing on the restricted funds, which are the funds that come in this fiscal year and the funds that go out. But we also have the unrestricted funds because we have these learning recovery funds. They came in previous fiscal years, but we have them to use and should be using them during this year. And so that's also why I push back, because we want to make sure that we're using those funds to recover learning.
I was just gonna go based off of Tuan's point. I think it's helpful for principals, the superintendent, and the board to know what is 1 point Like exactly what does that mean so that each person, whether it be a school teacher, custodial staff, right, board, all those in recruitment efforts, we know exactly what that means, but also, and this is not really directed at you, but also students and parents, for them to really understand what it means for that
Importance, yeah.
student to show up. That larger context matters, right? And so then you have these incredible efforts where they're celebrating class by class every single week, but they understand it's more than just this weekly celebration. It's because we're trying to do something for the larger community. If we just get to one point, and here's what that equates to, I'm going to make it up, 10 students, 10 more that show up that normally don't show up. That seems more tangible of a goal, right? For a community and a school to work together towards. I get that it's harder said than done, but I think overly communicating that isn't terrible. Yeah.
I'd agree completely.
Did you have something?
No, just I think on that point, and I don't want to get too derailed on the attendance, but I think it's really important, right? We're talking about these numbers and that's what's coming in. And so question for, Dr. Felch is, are we looking ahead at stuff like attendance dip days, analysis of like when do students, like not come to school? Do we have a plan to try to get ahead of that? Because, we have lower enrollment than projected. We're setting high ADA numbers to match our budgets. We're even trying to go above that. And so it seems like it would be like an all hands on deck for ensuring that those practices are a priority.
Yeah, we are, and shout out to Miles. We are looking at historical data from last year on what were certain days that we did see larger dips than normal. And it's not shocking that it's usually on Fridays or right before a holiday or things like that. But we are looking at that historical data. Right now, it's specific to Palm Lane. But again, if it's at Palm Lane, it's likely across the board. But we are looking at that and seeing how we can counteract those efforts.
Yeah, I think that would be just helpful to know at our next board meeting, like, what are we doing proactively to try to get ahead on this? And there's other things that we can do in schools. You want to maintain equity, but in terms of setting attendance goals for, you talked about end of the year trips and retreats, but how do we motivate kids to come to school and make sure that it's not always a carrot and the stick? We got to make sure it's connected to the education that they're receiving. But I think a combination of both would be really helpful, and I think would also help ease a little bit of the board's concerns currently in terms of making sure that we're financially right in a place to serve our students.
Okay. Needing to move on, but I appreciate the deep dive into this. I know we care about it, and I think it's, I will stop and just say, the facts are we're in a really great financial picture. We're very actually lucky. So I think that's, we do need to, I'm glad we're focused on this at this depth, and I know staff is probably focused on this at depth plus this. So it's helpful for us to understand it, but we appreciate all of the information you're giving us, and I think it's great that we're in a good financial picture as you look at all of our funds, but we want to keep the ship right and grow the ship, and that's kind of what this is about. So go ahead.
Moving on to Vista Heritage. So Vista Heritage's preliminary budget was based off an ADA of 372. Currently, it's going to be adjusted to 340.22, so 31.78 difference. Overall, that drives revenues down by about 570,000, majority of that being LCFF revenue and SB 740 as well. The reason why I didn't mention SB 740 for Vista Charter Middle School is because they pretty much cap out based on their bond payment. But with Heritage and Condor, their bond payments are much larger, so there's more room there for them to capture more SB 740 than the middle school. So total revenues down 569,000. On the expenditure side, the adjustments, certificate salaries did go up slightly. That's based off of reconciling new staffing based off of what we had budgeted before, as well as based on need for the Orange County schools. There was an added SPED coordinator across the campuses. We did make reductions on the classified side and number of TAs. So overall, that did drive benefits down just slightly. And then as I mentioned as well, we did make adjustments in books and supplies and services and other operating expenditures. So there was looking at final numbers on expenditures for books and supplies. As I mentioned earlier, they were like 90%, under 90% of what we budgeted last year. So we felt comfortable bringing that number down a bit for this year as well. So overall, expenditure reductions were down about 353,000. So Still a difference about 215. So their net income went from 188 to currently negative 27,782. But they are using about 80,000 in learning recovery funds. So unrestricted funds are still expected to go up at the end of the year by about $52,300. Questions on Heritage or?
I'm not seeing any. Oh,
Yeah,
go-
just, I think naming, there's no easy decision here, right?
Not at all.
But from what I'm seeing, it's, reduction of TAs, especially at elementary school, right? There's a lot of support that can go into, into a classroom for a teacher. And so just wanted to be thinking about how have we, how are the teachers feeling, right? What is the support looking like? Is now our teachers by themselves or is there shared TA? And so just naming that and curious to know, because as this can trickle for a teacher who's used to having a TA in the classroom, working with students, especially with students with needs, and then we pull that away. And so has there been any discussion or do we know how our teachers are doing with this transition? Yeah.
So teachers do continue to have support. It's just a reduced amount of support than what they had before. Does that answer your question? Oh.
Can I also add that we do have our coaches now? So the coaches come from a different funding source. So we do have coaches both in LA and Orange County. We're not finished onboarding, so there will be more support when we're done. But the coaches are also in the classrooms, observing, supporting teachers with planning and instruction. And when they're in, they're also working with the students.
And has that created an extra burden on like supervision and safety at campuses?
Of the 4 positions that we reduced in Heritage for TAs, 2 of them were unfilled. We maintained them unfilled because we were expecting to have to make cuts. So we only have reduced, in essence, to actual people in those positions. And it's taken a little bit of us having to restructure our supervision and ensure that, students are properly supervised, but it seems to be going fine.
Thanks.
I have a follow-up to that too. You actually beat me to it. I also wrote, I'm curious to know because yes, we have more home office coaches. But then not just for this school, but that in the last one I saw removed several positions, TAs and custodian. I'm assuming that plates aren't being dropped in that the responsibility still has to be carried on. But now you have less capacity to do that on a daily basis with on-site staff. So I also had the same question about teachers and staff and how they're taking it. I think morale is really important. And so I put here, what does that look like to a teacher when you're onboarding a home office coach, but then you're letting go custodial workers, TAs, and several, I'm assuming several positions mean credential positions. I don't know. It just says a general statement there. But I can't imagine that without these larger conversations, which I'm assuming are happening with principals and their staff to understand that larger picture. I'm also just curious to know what it's doing to morale. I mean, you guys just had your staff retreat. Everybody looked like they had a wonderful time, but I also didn't know the timing in which this happened. Did that staff retreat happen before you had to let all these people go, right? Or did it happen after? And then they felt like, okay, we're in good hands. We still have the support that's needed. I think it really matters. And so I'm just curious to know what the plan is there.
And similar to Heritage, when you asked about the Vista Charter Middle School, a number of those positions were also unfilled. And so we ended up just cutting those and not filling them. I think there was one staff member, a supervision aide, that was let go.
So then their responsibilities are just absorbed. I'm assuming absorbed by others.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. At some point we should do a wellness check. It's a lot of change for each site and the decisions are so tough. I can't imagine for each of you. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Next is Vista Condor. So Vista Condor's preliminary budget was based off 354 ADA. The updated budget's off of 342, so much smaller difference, just under 12. Still impacts at about $130,000. a majority of that being LCFF and then SB 740. Not a lot of changes on the expenditure side. We reconciled all the salaries, so a little bit of an increase there. Same thing on the classified, and benefits went up slightly, but we did find some savings in books and supplies and a couple of areas in the 5800. A portion of that is the percentage of the home office fees coming down, as well as like the district an authorizer fee. So overall, their net income dropped from 140 to 33, but they have a bigger bulk of learning recovery funds that are being utilized this year. So unrestricted funds are still expected to go up about $198,000 for Condor.
Go ahead.
Next is Vista Horizon. So original ADA was 176.7. Now we're projecting just over 160. So a drop about 16 points. Overall, that's about 253,000. So one drop in LCFF, a little bit. The federal is primarily on the nutritional side. For Horizon, so ELOP went up. And it only went up because we're trying to add more ELOP expenditure. So I try to align that so you see the true number at the end, and then the sped reduction based off of the ADA. So overall revenues dropped about 254,000. Currently, we did remove our coordinator from the staffing, but once we receive those literacy funds I mentioned before, that's going to be added back in. So, we're definitely keeping track of what new funding is available to be able to return services as much as possible. On the classified side, reconciling just a small increase. Reductions on the benefit side were primarily driven by that removed coordinator at the point, and then lower benefit cost for new employees. And then we looked at areas based off of prior year, end of year expenditure. So on the unaudited, we saw areas we can reduce. So reduced in the 4,000 series about $40,000, in the 5,000 series about 19. So overall, they went from 124 net income to now 60, but after learning recovery about 155,000 in the unrestricted fund growth at the end of the year. And I've mentioned this before. So Horizon, we're still waiting to hear back on facility funding that they applied for. So we're hoping to hear this month, early next month. So if they are able to receive that, that's about another $100,000 on top. So, Palm Lane. So their original projection was 280. Now we're projecting 257. Overall, it's just under $300,000 in difference, about 295. So we did make some changes because of the large drop. One teacher position was removed, as well as on the classified side, a couple of TAs, adjusting some full-time positions to part-time, as well as we had an IT coordinator resign. So we kind of allocating that work in that salary. Benefits came in lower for the new staff, so they were able to reduce that quite a bit. And then based off the changes above, employer taxes and other benefits came down. We looked at reducing areas in the 4,000 series to align with the previous year, as I mentioned. So overall, we were able to reduce quite significantly. And originally, even Palm Lane were projecting an overall negative number because they were really driving their use of restricted funds. And so we're keeping that now. So they actually improved. Their net income is down 58, but after learning recovery, their unrestricted will go up about $637,000 for the year.
And I do want to mention that the teacher position that was removed was also an unfilled position.
All right. Vista Meridian. So their original was based off of 273. The update is based off of 230. So this is a significant one, with 43 being the ADA difference. And as a high school, their ADA rate's much higher. So overall, it is an impact about $832,000. And you see that drop in LCFF over 700,000. So that definitely necessitated some tough decisions. So there are some staffing adjustments, primarily some folks changing positions at the end of the semester. I can let Dr. Felch with more details if you need. And then some reduction on the classified staff, primarily TAs. So that's sort of the big changes. We were able to reduce some areas of nutrition, books and supplies, some furniture we had put in that they don't necessarily need in their current facility. And then reduce PD. We saw some areas of consultants utilized last year that we're looking, that aren't repeating contracts or that we're looking to cut. So big savings there in the 5,000 series. So overall, cut out about 273,000. So it is in the negative currently, about 95,000. We're hoping with Dr. Real's help and some CTE applications and funding that are going out to be able to cover some positions with funding that'll hopefully get. She has a pretty successful record, but we're not inputting that in currently until we know whether she receives any of that for Vista Meridian.
Curious about the athletics. What was cut with the athletics?
So we just reduced the overall budget. That's one area we've had trouble tracking because of coding. So there's an emphasis on coding correctly, but the last couple of years, there's been like equipment purchases that we're expecting not to have to repeat this year. So we're able to cut down about 15, 20,000 from that. Thanks. Okay. Next is Vista Lago. And for Vista Lago, we have two different scenarios. So the first one is based off of 81 students and an ADA of 76. So, it's drastic from where we were projecting at 158. Overall, it's almost a $1.5 million reduction. So one, that you have half the students, it definitely included removing teacher positions, a couple of other support staff, as well as, TAs, et cetera. So that's the primary drive there. In books and supplies, there wasn't a lot there. Biggest drop there is in nutrition, just because of half the students, your nutritional cost is going to come down. But that's also reflected in less state and federal revenue based off of nutrition as well. But we are looking, we looked at reducing PD, some consultants, and a couple of different areas in the 5,000 series. So we were able to cut about 714,000, but that's only half of that 1.5. So at 81 students, even before we were projecting a very tight budget with only about 25,000 net income. So currently at 81, it's 727,000 in the red. When you look at 100, there aren't many more places to make cuts. So getting to 100 just really helps because of the additional revenue. And so that's being able to fill the current open student slots in the current classrooms. So if you're able to get to 100, it's only 1.2 less revenue. The expenditure side, some things, it's not that $700,000 savings because there are the percentage of funding that goes towards your authorizer, towards the home office, et cetera, that kind of eats into that a little bit. But still, it's a net income at the end of the year about negative 500,000 for the year.
And on this, right, if I was reading the numbers correctly earlier too, it's it's currently 81 students, but if we looked at the beginning of the year, there was a lot. It was unenrollment happening at the school as well, and so the projection for 100. Why are we making that? Is there more students in the pipeline?
Well, as of today, we're at 86 students. I think Dr. Carrillo was late because she was doing 2 tours for parents this afternoon. I was just there this morning, and there were parents asking for more flyers, parents asking, hey, I've got a friend that would like to do a tour. And so again, I think we gained 7 students just last week, if I'm not mistaken. So we're starting to trend now in the right direction. But the expectation is, and I've shared it with Dr. Carrillo and the Vista Lago team, to get to at least 100 by the next within the next month.
Okay.
One last, sorry. And then consultants were, who are the consultants that were, I'm just curious when we say consultants.
So a portion was attuned, I believe was one of them. And then there were some facility consultants that were utilized in the past that are cut out.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, did you?
So that's the last budget update. And then just outstanding checks. We generally share the outstanding checks that are 50 days past. We'll share this with the office managers to follow up. And then your check register for August.
And so so we're coming back to this for an action item in 5.1 that's similar to this. Do we need to have any discussion at this item to prep us for that 5.1?
So
5.1 is the LCAP. Are you talking about the unaudited actuals?
516, sorry. The unaudited actuals. Don't we have to?
You have to approve those or just ratify those at that point. Yeah. So no action now. And then the EPA budget, that's an annual thing. So part of your LCFF funding is EPA, which is the Education Protection Account. And you just have to report where that money went. That always goes towards instruction and teacher salaries, and that's reflected for each of the schools when you get to that action item.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Well, can I say thank you, right? You're doing a lot of work to make this work, right? And just really appreciate it answering all the questions.
And then I agree. I think this was really easy to follow. I really appreciated the breakdown. I did have one follow-up question on your expenditures for services and other operating expenditures for each of them. Is it possible to separate out into a line item what's going to the home office? So that way, if I see reduced PD consultants, et cetera, on line B5, I know that on line B6, right, where it says home office and that 5.5% going there, I know that these are the coaches that are kind of filling in. I think that that's a little easier to read because there's a lot of explaining that's happening off the page, but if you maybe
Okay.
add that line, it just helps.
I can do that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I think on the home office there's no home office page.
There
How's-
currently isn't,
Yeah.
so we are working on that to get
Okay.
that on here as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I want to echo what Michael and Kelly were saying. We knew this was coming because we saw the last month what enrollment looked like. We know that your team has been working really hard on this, and we understand that these are complicated. They're not the funnest conversations, and that you all put a lot of work into coming up with the best plan, and we count on the fact that you did that work in the best interest of the instructional program for our students. And so we want to tell you, I appreciate you. I won't speak for anybody else, but I appreciate all that work that you put into doing this. And we're in a much better on paper position. And I'm glad that Kelly's talking about culture and things like that as well. So, okay. All right. Any other comments? Okay. So that's 3.4. Now we're going to move on to public hearings 4.1, or I'm sorry, we're going to move to 3.4. See, I caught myself. Usually at this point in the meeting, I usually skip one, and this month I caught myself. So, Mrs. Amaya, 3.4, beginning of the year academic diagnostic data presentation.
All right, my turn, and I'll be quick. So we just completed the first administration of our diagnostic. So what I'm going to share is just our current data, and just want to start off by saying this is baseline data. So this is the data that will guide the work that we do moving forward. And the diagnostic assessment, oh, thank you, is students are assessed at grade level. So a fourth grader is assessed at fourth grade, even though they've only been in school for 2 weeks of fourth grade. So just wanted to make that clarification. So this is where we are overall, and I want to point out that this is K-8, and I will show high school after we're done with K-8. But this is just where we're at. So as the green is either mid or above or early on grade level, the yellow is one grade level below, which is usually where we want to see where we want to see the majority of our students, one grade level below. And then the red is 2 and 3 or more grade levels below. The top is reading and the bottom is math. So we've got, and these are percentages, by the way. So we've got, couple kids in the green and a good chunk of them in the yellow. And we're seeing a little bit less red than in years past. This is by grade level from K to 8. So you can kind of see where everybody's at. In kinder, there's no red because it's kinder. And in first and second grade, there's no 3 or more grade levels below because they're in first and second grade. So you kind of see where those numbers start off, and looks like our third grade is off to a great start. But our numbers of yellow are also in a good place for the majority of the grade levels. And this is reading.
Karen, quick
Yeah.
question, just as we're reading this. Those are like the number of students, not percentages?
No, those are percentages. I'm sorry. All of these are percentages.
So when I add those up, like I added up the third grade line because I was trying to
Uh-huh.
figure that out, and it adds up to like 86.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I think this one might have the error. I think I forgot to unclick the error margin.
We're missing the mid or
For third grade?
I think it's missing the
There.
3 or below.
Okay, well, it's percentages and we
Yeah,
might be
it's
missing
they're
some.
percentages.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's all it was 100, so I was just.
Okay. Yeah, they're percentages. And then oh yeah, it's missing the mid or above for third grade. That's what it was. Then the next one is math. And in second and third, there is no mid or above. Just want to make sure you guys catch that. It's not missing. It's 0 students who are mid or above at this time. And similarly, kinder, there's no red. And then first and second, there's no dark red. And then you start to see it in third grade. And then, oh, next slide is reading fall to fall. So you can kind of see where we've been. The numbers are pretty much in line where we've been previously. Just want to remind you that we also had a switch in curriculum this year. So we're hoping that as we move toward more science of reading based curriculum, that we'll start to see these numbers specifically fall to fall at the beginning of the year start to change as well. And then the next is the math. So again, very similar. There's a little bit less red starting off, which is just a good place for, you know, our students to be and our teachers to start working from. Next slide is you can see how each school did. So this is reading. And for reading, let's see, what did I want to share for reading? Oh, for reading, it's just really nice to see the middle school green going up a little bit. Because as you know, usually in middle school is where we start to see those dips. So just having that starting off point at the beginning of the year is really nice. And then the next one is math. So our baseline data for math. So you can kind of see where everybody is. And kudos to Heritage also for starting at 11% early on or mid or above. So then the next slide is Vista Meridian. So I wanted to share the high school data. So in previous years, I've only shared K-8. This year, Vista Meridian adopted NWA MAP. This is it falls under the verified data list for the state. And it gives us a lot of rich data where students are at and even projects, I believe it projects CASP and also like just college, gives information for colleges and things like that. So again, very general information to start off with, but this is where their reading is at. And you know what? I just realized that I forgot to change the legend on this slide specifically. But if you go to the next slide, they measure students in percentiles. So it's similar to iReady where we have the 5-band placement, but the dark red is the first to 20th percentile. The dark green is the 80th percentile or above. So that's how they place students on NWA MAP. So this is the reading for the high school. And look, it's looking very promising. And then this here is the math. So the math is, you know, a lot more red than the reading, but it's still looking, the starting off points, the baseline data is still looking very promising. Just real quick follow-up. At this point, all principals have met with their school site teams. All school site teams have analyzed data. They have all created small groups or identified targeted interventions for different student groups. Again, all of our coaches are on board. Some of our coaches actually facilitated the data analysis in some of our school sites, but they are also aware of the data. So they are also developing a plan of support along with each principal. For next steps, continued implementation of our curriculum with instructional leadership development for principals and continued PD for for our teachers, with regards to curriculum, the PD was budgeted in the annual cost of the curriculum. So every principal has at least one, some more PDs directly from the publishers, but they also continue just on site. And then the middle of the year diagnostic will be administered in December, right before the winter break. And this year we will also be looking at unit data for each math and ELA unit. So the first unit assessment will take place in about 2 weeks for each grade level, around there. So we'll be looking at that data as well. Questions?
So, first, thanks, right? It's diagnostic data. It made me think, because it is just baseline data, and I know there's like growth from last year, but I'm curious, do we have cohort data? Like students who, you know, how they were doing last year. Let's say, I finished at grade level. Do we have data that they're coming this year and that growth is sustained? Do you know what I mean?
We do. We can
You
pull
do?
that up.
That would be
Mhm.
really helpful,
Okay.
especially just for diagnostics of
Yeah.
like how effective and how great is learning loss over the summer,
Mhm.
and is there summer enrichment and like book reading lists and encouragement that we're able to offer for just that like effectiveness to be able to support students in their continuous growth, because if they're taking 2 steps forward and
Mhm.
1 step back, you want to continue to close that opportunity gap. And you mentioned that you're doing a lot. You did the PD analysis. Are students, are schools setting like typical growth or stretch growth? You know, the I-ready term. Which one are you guys using? Are we using?
Both.
Both?
So it's the expectation is the typical growth,
Yep.
but we're pushing students to
Got it.
stretch growth. So per research, students need to do a minimum of 45 to 50 minutes per week and pass at least 2 lessons. So that's just the expectation
Got it.
all around for all of the schools. It might look a little bit different, like when and the time that it happens
Sweet.
at each school site, but that's just the minimum expectation.
Yeah.
So we'll be tracking that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that update. Okay, now we're moving on to public hearings. We have 2 public hearings tonight, 4.1 public hearing for the 2025-26 local control accountability plan for Vista Lago. So do we need to open the public hearing? Do I have
Yeah.
to say that?
Yes, I have the script.
You've got it.
I've
Great.
got the
Thank
script.
you.
Yes. So before I go into it, I want to share that this is not a typical time to be going through an LCAP public hearing and approval. Usually it is in June, prior to July 1st. However, it is not required for Vista Lago as a first-year school to have an LCAP because there is no prior year data. And initially, we did not do that. The main reason for this, in full transparency, is the school needs an approved LCAP in order to be able to apply for federal funding. And as we just saw Vista Lago's budget, we could use any and all funding that we can get. So that is the primary driver for this. And so we have forged ahead and completed the LCAP, and so we will be presenting that here today. All right, now I will get into. So as required by California Education Code 52062, every school district and charter school must present its LCAP at a public hearing before its adoption, allowing for community input from students, parents, staff, and members of the public. Tonight, we will be presenting Vista Lago's LCAP. Vista Lago's LCAP shares the same 3 overarching goals as each of the other Vista schools, as you saw a few months ago. First one is educating the whole child. Second is professional growth. And third is family and community partnerships. Vista Lago also has many of the same actions under these goals, as we have the same priorities. However, it's important to note that it is a first-year school, and as a result, Vista Lago does not have any prior year data or any dashboard data. And so at this time, I will open the public hearing on the LCAP, and we invite members of the public who wish to speak to come forward. Susie, do we have anyone here who would like to speak? regarding the LCAP?
Nope, no one. We don't have any,
Okay.
public comment.
Vista Charter Middle School, do we have anybody who would like to speak in regards to the LCAP?
We do not have anybody that would like to speak.
Thank you. Vista Horizon Global Academy, do we have anybody who would like to speak in regards to Vista Lagos LCAP?
We do not have anyone that would like to speak.
Thank you. Palm Lane, do we have any members of the public who would like to speak on behalf of or regarding Vista Lagos LCAP?
We do not have anyone that would like to speak.
Thank you. Vista Meridian, do we have any members of the public who would like to speak about Vista Lagos LCAP?
No, not at the moment.
Thank you. And Vista Lago, are there any members of the public that would like to speak on behalf or regarding Vista Lagos LCAP?
We have no members of the public that would like to speak.
All right. We have no public comments regarding the LCAP, and so I will now close the public hearing for Vista Lagos LCAP.
Okay, great. And any comments from the board? Any questions from the board? Okay. We don't need to take, it's a public hearing.
So
Do we
there
need
is
to
no
take
action on this action item. 5.1 is the action item.
Yeah, okay, 4.2, we'll move along to 4.2, public hearing for the Williams Act resolution for all of our schools. And I'll hand it back over to you.
All right. So I'd like to open the Williams Act public hearing for Vista Charter Public Schools. Today is September 22nd, 2025, and we're holding this public hearing in compliance with the requirement of the Williams Settlement legislation, also known as the Williams Act. This hearing is being conducted to determine whether our schools have three items. The first being sufficient instructional materials, second, safe and clean facilities, and the third being qualified teachers. We're required to hold this hearing within the first 8 weeks of the school year and to allow for public input and to ensure students have equal access to basic educational necessities. We have completed our annual review of each of our schools, including site visits, teacher assignment audits, and we have found that in instructional materials, all students at all of our schools have sufficient access to textbooks and instructional materials in all core areas. For facilities at all of our schools, facilities are in good repair with no urgent health or safety issues identified. And for teacher assignments, all teachers are appropriately assigned and fully credentialed in their subject areas. We will now open the floor for public comment. And Susie, are there any comments?
No, we don't have any comments.
Thank you. Vista Charter Middle School, are there any comments regarding the Williams Act public hearing?
No comments.
Vista Horizon, are there any comments?
No comments.
Palm Lane, are there any comments?
No comments.
Vista Meridian, any comments?
No comments.
And Vista Lago, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
All right, thank you. We will now close the Williams Act public hearing. This concludes the public hearing.
Okay, great. And we're going to come back to these independently. But Tuan, I know you, looks like you have a question. You want to raise it now?
Yeah, who determines that we are in compliance? Is that a third-party auditor?
So it is us that determines that. However, there are selected school sites that do go through random audits. Palm Lane is one of them that went through a Williams Act compliance audit where a third party did come in and look to see that, or did a site visit to look to see that we had sufficient instructional materials and so on. And that came through clean. So again, no surprise, but it did validate what we've been seeing.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we can move on to the action items now. Some of these will be approvals of the information that we just took in from the public hearings. So the first one is 5.1. It's the Vista Lago LCAP for 25-26. I'll look for a motion.
A motion?
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any board questions? I figured you had felt comfortable with the staff report that we did just a minute ago. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, so we'll take a vote. All in favor of the 5.1 local control accountability plan for Vista Lago, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Okay. That carries unanimously. Now we'll move on to 5.2, which is the Williams Act resolution for Vista Charter Middle School. I'll look for a motion.
A motion. Or a second?
Okay. You,
I second.
we'll go with, okay,
Yeah.
we'll go on and then cut. Okay. And so any questions, discussion? No? All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. That carries unanimously. We're moving on to 5.3, Williams Act for Vista Horizon Global. I'll look for a motion.
Motion.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Okay, any questions, comments, discussion? Okay, I'll move to a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Moving on to 5.4. I'll take a motion for the Williams Act resolution for Palm Lane Global Academy.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any questions? We'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay. Moving on to 5.5. This is the Williams Act resolution for Vista Condor. Take a motion.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. 5.5. Figure there's no questions. Move on to the vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay. 5.6 is the Williams Act for Vista Heritage Global Academy.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, and I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. 5.7.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
And I'll call the question. And all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, last one for the Williams Act is 5.8.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I think we probably could take those all in one motion next time. So
Mhm.
Unfortunately,
they have to be
legal
independent.
said it needed to
Has to
be
be independent.
one for each school.
Wow. Okay, now we're moving on to 5.9, the MOU for Vista Meridian Global Academy, and I'll hand it over to Colin for a staff report.
Yeah, and so Dr. L, please feel free to chime in if I miss anything, but this is directly from Dr. Real. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve the MOU between Vista Meridian and EXP for the 25-26 school year. This agreement provides comprehensive support for Meridian's informational technology and biomedical pathways through EXP's exploration and career experience programs. Services include GPS Your Future Career Discovery, Women in STEAM, industry guest speakers, job shadowing, business site tours, and the MD&M Expo. Students will also benefit from the Career Preparation Certificate Program, resume and portfolio workshops, mock interviews, and up to 20 paid summer internships in high-growth industries. Additionally, dedicated IT and biomedical advisory boards will guide curriculum relevance, connect students with mentors, and expand pathway-specific industry networks. The total contract is $145,200, with Vista Meridian contributing $50,500 and EXP providing the remaining $94,700 through its financial match. Approval of this agreement will ensure that students gain equitable access to hands-on experiences, industry connections, and career-aligned opportunities that prepare them for high-skill, high-wage, and high-demand fields.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Okay, is there any discussion, any questions about the MOU? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to 5.10, the resolution for Vista Lago loan, Citizens Bank staff.
Yeah, so this resolution would authorize a cash secured loan using Vista's savings account at Citizens Bank at a low 2.75% interest rate for up to $1.8 million in order to finance the entitlement and pre-construction costs for Vista Lago's permanent facilities project. These costs will ultimately be reimbursed through the bond and are included in the bond budget projections.
Okay, is the motion.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, any questions? Nope. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Moving on to 5.11, promissory note for between Vista Lago and Citizens Bank for the loan.
Yeah, so this is connected to the previous one. This really outlines the payback terms of the $1.8 million loan with Citizens Business Bank.
Okay, looking for a motion.
Motion.
Okay. Any questions, discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Moving on to 5.12. This is the VCPS Transportation Services for Condor Global Academy staff. Or
Yeah, this is an MOU, and you'll see it for the next three items, one for Condor, one for Heritage, one for Meridian. This formalizes the agreement and the payment between the schools and the home office for use of the transportation, because now transportation is being operated out of the home office.
motion.
Motion.
Thank you.
A second.
Okay. Any questions on 5.12? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carries unanimously. 5.13. I think we did the staff presentation, same thing for Vista Heritage Global, so I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carries. 5.14, that's the same for Meridian Global. Motion.
Motion.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries unanimously. Okay, 5.15, the 2024-25 EPA actuals for Vista Charter Middle School and all of the schools. So, Dr. Felch.
Yeah, so Arturo touched on this a little bit. Each year, we need to publicly share and report each school's education protection account, or EPA actuals, at the end of the fiscal year. So these are for the 24-25 school year for each school, and once approved, will be posted on each school's website.
Okay, motion.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion on this? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries. 5.16, unaudited actuals for the schools. And we've had the presentation on this, so I think we're comfortable about that, right? Motion?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, assuming there's no question, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carries. 5.15, 5.16. Okay, just for the public's purpose, we don't have a closed session tonight, so we're gonna go to board comments and then we can all leave at the same time. All right, so board comments. Why don't we just start with Dr. Lee on the right, and we'll move this way.
I want to thank everybody here for the tremendous effort. I know that we're looking at data and it's very quantified, but really there's a lot of effort that goes into every recruitment, every support of every child. And so to all of you, this is such a huge lift. And so, this is the longest stretch, right? In the fall, you can do it, we can make it. But I think once we get that information and the data in, we can have more informed discussions on when those, attendance dip days are and things like that. But please do rely on your board to ask, critical questions so that we can be supportive as well. But thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's patience as we tried to figure out what was what and with the financials, but really shout out to you, Arturo. We really appreciate all the work you're doing and how you presented that and answering and being patient with us. I will just highlight, I just wanted to say, as we're talking about the things that like attendance and stuff, there's a lot of incredible things happening, and thank you for sharing, like even on your principal reports and those weekly blasts. Like I'm looking at you, Daniel, like what you have going on this Friday, right? With your festival and also with your, the student survey, the student satisfaction survey. It's clear that you're intentional about student programming and it's happening across the schools. And so just continuously want to elevate that, like amazing things are happening. And I hope that we're learning from each other, right? And sharing best practices, because that's what keeps, as the district grows, united. And so just want to shout out.
Yeah, I just want to thank all the staff. I think it's important. Just based on what Michael and Kelly has said, just focus on the metrics and then just share best practices. I think that's really important.
Great. I want to thank our honoree tonight for always having a smile on her face, always welcoming me and making us feel really comfortable when we come here. So I feel very comfortable with your smile and the presence that you have, and I'm glad you got honored tonight. But thank you personally, because I feel like I have more interaction with you than a number of our staff, which has been really great. So with that, I will close the meeting and adjourn, and I guess we'll vote for adjournment. So all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Woohoo!
Motion and second, sorry.
Oh,
I motion it.
well, that's only because OCDE is here. No. Okay, motion is from Michael.
I motion.
And second from
Yep.
Kelly. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed.
And meeting adjourned at 7:20.